government, I believe, was providentially inspired, and it was a unique experiment in government where we would not vest overwhelming amounts of power in any branch or in any person. Because the truth is, to collapse an organization, put too much power in the hands of too few, and the first mistake has been made toward that end. And the second is for those who are the followers to capitulate from personal responsibility and to remove any risk to themselves and leave all of the risk and yet all of the responsibility in the hands of the one who is the leader. I want to say that I'm not speaking just to the political environment. I would speak also to the church. It is not wise for pastors to believe that all of the power should rest solely in them, but that the power should rest in the power of God, and He simply channels out the responsibilities. But the purpose of the pastor is not to retain the power, but to embolden and empower those to whom he is equipping, so that they will in fact do the work of the ministry. When we consolidate power into the hands of a few and capitulate then from our own responsibilities and remove the risk, two results take place. One, it reveals a cowardice in the followers, but then it reveals corruption in the leaders. And it makes the leaders solely responsible. Now, in the case of Abimelech, Jotham, the youngest son of Gideon, had escaped and did not meet the fate of his brothers. He then tells this story of three trees, an olive tree, a fig tree, and a vine, all of which were invited to be the king of the trees. And all of them declined because they already had a purpose and a function that was fruitful and useful. When none of those trees which were fruitful and useful would claim to be the king, a bramble bush said, "I will be the king." And in the story as it's told by Jotham in the 9th chapter of Judges, the bramble bush is willing to be the king of the trees, but the problem is that the bramble bush puts forth nothing in the way of fruit. In fact, its only real significance is that if it were to catch fire, it could destroy the fruit-producing trees. It is a classic example where the weakest wishes to be the strongest. And so we today need to recognize that real leadership is not about bringing power to ourselves, but it is about bringing power to those that we are to serve. Fundamental rule of leadership is leaders never ask of others what they themselves are unwilling to do. And real leadership is not met by shoving, but by loving. It is not getting behind people and kicking them in the backside and telling them what they're going to do. It's getting in front of them and modeling a behavior and encouraging them to join in an activity that changes the world. I want to say something about leadership, be it in the pastorate or the government or in the family. It involves taking risk. I've often said to people who ask me whether they should run for office, I first usually say no, because I like them and I want them to enjoy life. But I do have people from time to time that will say, "I'm thinking about running for office, and what do you think?" And here's what I always tell them, and I'm very honest. First, I tell them, if your family is not 100% in unison and completely committed to it as much as you are, then forget it. Go help somebody else. This is not worth killing your marriage over or having your wife kill you over, and either one are possibilities should you do this without the complete support of your family. But the second thing I always tell them is that if you don't like the sight of your own blood, then it would be better for you to buy a ticket and watch this from the stands than it would be to get out on the field and experience it firsthand, because it is a full contact sport played without pads, and don't ever kid yourself and think that you will go through it without getting scarred. And by the way, if you wonder how I came to understand and appreciate that, I was a pastor in a Southern Baptist church for 12 years before that, and the toughest politics I ever faced was not running for president or running for governor or lieutenant governor. It was being a pastor in a Southern Baptist church. Folks, them are some tough politics out there if you've never experienced it. I remember visiting with a deacon one time. We were out on visitation. We had just read that 3 Southern Baptist preachers, this was back in the early 80s, he had just read an article, 3 Southern Baptist preachers at that time a day were leaving the ministry. And I'm not saying they were going into denominational work or going to a college or doing some other way to serve the Lord. They were literally just closing shop and leaving. I don't know what the latest figures are, but at that time, 3 a day. And as we were driving around, he said, you know, that just breaks my heart that so many guys are leaving. He said, I think what's happened is that the job of pastoring a church has just gotten too big. There's just too much to it. I thought about it, and I said to him, Brother Jimmy, I don't think that's it. I don't think the problem is that the job has gotten too big. I think that for many, the problem is that the job has gotten too small. And I said, you know, most people, when they accept God's call, believe that God is calling them to help change the world, to lead an army into spiritual battle. Maybe to be the captain of a spiritual warship, taking a spiritual navy into battle across the high seas to challenge Satan himself. And it's the bigness of the task that gets people into it. But after a while, the expectations of many people in the church is not, Pastor, we want you to lead us so that we can change the world. The criteria by which that pastor is judged successful or not is not the big thing, but it's the little things. The menu at the Wednesday night fellowship dinner. How well the softball team is doing.